And this has been my kitchen. Hello, welcome to Cooking with SonicBlu, and what you see there is a bowl full of pigtails. Now I know what you're thinking, pigtails? How do you cook them? What are pigtails and where do they come from? Well, you know, we did a meal out of Bologna and we did a meal out of Hungary. This time we're going to Jamaica for our international dishes around the world. And this time we're in Jamaica. We are going to make some Jamaican pigtails. And I'm going to show you all about it now. This is a process called brining your pigtails, because pigtails, when they come to you, are extremely salty and extremely a little bit tough to chop if you don't have a cleaver. So what I've done was I've soaked these in water and vinegar and some pepper over a course of a couple of days. I didn't get to it right away, but usually you just soak this in a brine overnight. That will make the bone nice and soft so that you can cut it easily, and will help lift some of the salt that is used to cure these pigtails. Now, salt is needed to cure the pigtails so that way they remain fresh when they come to you, and you get them in the store, you get them home, they will ensure their freshness, but you definitely want to get rid of all that salt used to cure your pigtails. And this is a good way to do that. Now, brining your pigtails enables your cuts to be a little easier on your knife, a little easier on you, and then we are going to boil our pigtails to remove any of the excess salt used in the curing process, because like I said, pigtails are extremely salty. So what I've got now is a large saucepan, and I'm going to fill this up with some hot water, and we are going to boil our pigtails until we achieve a slow boil, a slow, steady boil. So over to the stove, and here we are with our saucepan, got plenty of water to cover our pigtails. So let's go ahead and drop our pigtails in, and then that pot in the background I'll show you later, but that's the pot we're going to be using for our side dish, which are another delicacy in Jamaica, a white sweet potato. But for now, we are just going to wait until this water boils, and then we're going to drop in our pigtails so that we can uncure our pigtails, and that means removing all the excess salt that came with our pigtails. Like I said, you definitely don't want to skip this step. Otherwise, you will come away with something a little bit more salty than what you're than what you did. Okay, so here we go. We are peeling our white sweet potato, and most of the grocery stores in your area probably sell these, but we are going to peel all of our sweet potato until there is no peels left behind on our potatoes. Then we're going to slice them up into little chunks that you see here. We're going to cut them in half, then cut them in half lengthwise, and then cut them in two sections, just like you see here. I know it's a little fast, but you get the idea. We're going to drop all of our pieces into our boiling water. Let those boil in that big stock pot back there. Now, they're going to be boiling for a while, and we're going to add a lot of salt. Now, I know we're taking away a lot of salt from our pigtails, but we're adding a lot of salt to our sweet potato. And why do we do this? Because that salt we are not going to incorporate into our potato. That salt is merely there to help break up the starch that forms in the boiling process of the sweet potatoes. Because we don't want any of that excess starch in our water. We want that broken down, and the salt will help break down any starch matter in your water. All right, so now we've got a boiling pot of water in our saucepan. So let's drop in our pigtails one at a time. There's 1. There's 2. We're using about approximately 2.5 to 3 pounds of pigtails there. And we're just going to drop those in. Still very salty, but they're not going to be as salty anymore, as the boiling process will remove any of the excess salt and from the effects of curing the pigtails. So we're going to let those boil until we achieve a slow, steady boil. When it starts bubbling and bubbling and bubbling, and you use a spoon to stir as it's bubbling and it continues to bubble, that's when you need to pull them off. That is a slow, steady boil, which means it's steady throughout any stirring that you might do. It does not have to go back up to a slow, steady boil because it's already still boiling. Anyway, there you have it. There's our slow, steady boil right there. So a constant, steady boil. We're going to give it a stir. I'll show you what I mean there. So we're going to check out our pigtails here. As you can see, they're pretty well boiled up already. And you can see that boil is just lasting right through our stirring process, which means it is time for those puppies to come off of the heat. So a little once over here to make sure that they're not too overcooked, because we're not trying to cook our pigtails. We're just trying to remove any of the excess brine and salt from the curing and make sure that we have just solid, regular, plain, run-of-the-mill pigtails. So we're just going to let that sit for a little bit, I guess. I would think that you would pull those off by now, SonicBlu. What's wrong with you? Well, as we sit here and ponder over what we're going to do next, might I also say that I'm going to also show you how to make a homemade jerk sauce and how to come up with substitutions if you don't have any Jamaican jerk seasoning. Now, why do they call them jerk seasoning and Jamaican jerk and jerk this and jerk that? Is it because a jerk really made all these seasonings and put all these ingredients together because they want to be jerks? No, not it at all. The origin of the jerk seasoning and jerk sauce mainly stems from the effect that it has on your taste buds. You go from a sweet taste all the way to a spicy taste and then back to a sweet taste. So when you eat Jamaican food that has been cooked with Jamaican jerk seasoning or sauce, your taste buds will jerk from one side of the spectrum to the other side of the spectrum and back again, hence the name jerk. So it's really about the motion, not a type of person. So now we're going to drain all of that hot water out of our saucepan. And while we are here, we're going to fill this back up with hot water. There we go. And we're going to place this back on the stove again. This time we are going to wait until we first start to see bubbling. We're just going to give them a rinse just to make sure. Come back here. Come back here. And I lost it down the drain. Come back here, you. Okay, there we go. Did not lose it. Okay, don't worry, folks. That is a clean drain. Trust me. I cleaned it before I started. Now we're going to give this a steady rinse just to make sure that all of that old water is rinsed off of our pigtails completely before we start anew. In Jamaican cooking, especially preparing pigtails, perfection is everything. Believe me, Jamaicans are as serious about their food and culture as Italians are serious about theirs. Okay, swivel around to the stove here, and we're going to place our saucepan back on the top of the stove. Let it achieve that boil, and once again, remember, we're not looking to cook them. We just want them to make sure that all excess salt is removed from our pigtails. Now we're going to give our sweet potato a stir, and you'll see that a lot of them are floating there. That does not indicate that they are done. They will sink to the bottom when they are done. And sweet potato is a lot more firm than regular russet potatoes, which will require extra cooking time. We're just going to wait until everything achieves a nice, beautiful boil, and there is the boil we're looking for, and by magic, there is the boil we're looking for. Just a nice, easy boil the second time around. Don't need to achieve that steady, slow boil. Just as long as you see bubbling action, then we are ready to take them off the fire and drain all of its water out into the sink just like before. Please be careful not to drop any in the drain. Thank you very much. Once our pigtails are completely drained off, we are going to rinse them in cold water to kill the heat immediately. This will make for easier handling when we're ready to cut them down into sections. So there's the cold water, and we are going to rinse with cold water a few times, ensuring that our pigtails will not heat the water back up again, which makes it difficult for handling. We're just going to cool that off real quick. And that water should be nice and cool by now. But we're just going to make sure I can handle it. Yes, I can. One more shot of cold water for extra measure, because you definitely want to be precise when making Jamaican cuisine. Especially, you don't want to burn your fingers off. Now we're going to cut down into our bone. And as you can see, it doesn't require that much strength, but some sections may be a little bit more difficult to cut than others. As you can see, I'm having a little bit of problem with my knife, but it could be the fact that I have not sharpened this knife in a while, and it may be dull. But with a little bit of pressure, I'm able to section off my pigtails into 3 sections. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Some of them might be small enough to where they just go into 2 sections, but really you're just looking for small pieces like this. About that size. They don't have to be huge. This will ensure that your pigtails will be enough to go around with your family at the table. So now we are going to prepare our seasoning, of which we are to use to coat our pigtail pieces. We're going to start with some black pepper, then some ground ginger, but let me uncover it first because this is a brand new bottle of ground ginger. And what we're doing here, folks, is recreating the ingredients or recipe for Jamaican jerk seasoning. So, ground ginger for a little bit of a spice kick. And this is oregano. Just a little shot of oregano there. And all of these ingredients are added to taste. That's some all-purpose seasoning right there, or seasoning salt. And everything here is added to taste. So we got paprika going in. And I like a lot of paprika, but I'm just only adding that much. No, that's the all-purpose seasoning. What was the other stuff? Oh, garlic powder. Garlic powder. That was the other bottle, which I thought was the all-purpose. But no, that's the all-purpose seasoning right there. And this is crushed red pepper. Just a little shake of those in there. Crushed red pepper flakes. And now the crowning jewel of this recipe, the coating, allspice. Now we're going to give this a toss and make sure that all that seasoning is coating our pieces nice and thoroughly. And we're going to continue to coat until all of our pieces are coated with this lovely array of seasonings. And if you're ever wondering how to make or how to duplicate Jamaican jerk seasoning, this is a dandy way to do it. You start with allspice, then you add your garlic powder, your ginger, some crushed red pepper flakes, salt and pepper to taste, and some all-purpose seasoning, or seasoned salt. Give them a good toss, and a little bit of paprika too. Now, I'm using grapeseed oil here, so we're going to add our oil to the skillet just enough to cover. We don't need any excess, just enough to cover, because we don't have that much in pigtails to work with, therefore we don't need much oil to work with. Now, you can use olive oil as a substitute if you have no grapeseed oil, but I find that grapeseed oil is just the right touch and flavor that we need to achieve a better taste of Old Jamaica. So I'm using grapeseed oil here in the place of olive oil. Let that heat up, and we will be ready when the oil starts to grow thin and starts sizzling. When you hear sizzling, that means add our pigtails. And we're just going to give this a swish. Okay, we're good because I hear sizzling. You might not hear sizzling because I have the original sound turned down. So we are going to add our pigtail portions to the skillet. Now you see that seasoning down there? We're going to knock that into our skillet. We're going to knock that in because that's extra flavoring, and that can easily coat the rest of our pieces. when it's combined with the oil. So the oil combined with any excess seasonings are going to give that oil an even better and richer and more spicy flavor that will coat our pigtails. And we're just going to cook those until they're slightly seared, just slightly, because remember, we're not going to fully cook them here. This is not the final cooking process. So allow me to kind of chop up the seasoning rockets that I have dumped into the skillet and combine them with the oil, then combine the pieces in with the oil and the seasoning. That way you get more coatability that way. Give it a little swish, and there we go. Let it cook for a while, and let that cook, yeah. So we're going to turn the heat down just a little bit because we are working with oil while we work on our sauce. This is going to be the start of our Jamaican jerk sauce. We're going to start with a 1/4 cup of ketchup, and that's about how much I have left in that bottle. So we're going to use the rest of that ketchup, and that should be about a 1/4 cup. And now we're going to do the smart thing and add a little bit of water to this bottle so that we can get all the ketchup out of that bottle, and then just add whatever comes out of that bottle into the mix. It's okay if you have a little excess water too, because I'm going to show you an extra step that we're going to use to help thicken our sauce and make it super, super sticky and super enjoyable. And let me tell you folks, if you never had Jamaican cuisine before, this is a good start. A good start in diving in with all feet and arms and limbs and all in. You got to go all in. You got to go all in. Just like learning how to swim, having your first taste of Jamaican cuisine is just like going all in a swimming pool. You got to go jump all in and just go for it. We are going to be adding a half a bottle of barbecue sauce. I'm using, what is that? What kind of barbecue sauce am I using? Well, it doesn't really matter. I'm using an original barbecue sauce style. So no smoked, no honey sweets, no brown sugar and barbecue sauce. Just as original as you can. And now I'm adding in some ground ginger. This is going to be the basis of our Jamaican jerk sauce. So I'm just adding about a pinch, maybe 2 pinches. Yeah, that's about 2 pinches of ground ginger. So we're going to add 2 pinches of ground ginger to our ketchup and barbecue sauce. Then we're going to add about 2 pinches of paprika and a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice. Allspice is the main ingredient, so we need a little bit more than just a couple pinches. So that's about a 1/4 teaspoon right there. Then we're going to add a pinch or two, a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. So there's a lot of it. Now we're going to add about a 1/4 cup of honey to this. And look at how fancy. I got a honey wand and everything. And this is some really amazing honey that I bought at the Roadster show here in Portland just recently. Some really, really amazing honey. It's got some medicinal purposes in it too. So I'm adding about 4 swipes of the honey wand, which is about a 1/4 cup of this really amazing honey. And then we're just gonna, well, that was about 3 swipes of the wand. So a little less than a 1/4 cup. So about 3 swipes of a wand of honey. If you don't have a wand, then just use a regular soup spoon and just gather up 3 of those heaping soup spoons full of honey, which should equal just under a 1/4 of a tablespoon of honey. Okay, now we're adding all the juice from a can of pineapple tidbits. All the juice from the pineapple tidbits go in there. Hey, save it for the recipe. Okay, well, I ate one. That's okay. There's plenty in that can to go around. So we are adding the juice from the pineapple. Not only is it a good staple and a popular favorite amongst Jamaicans, but it's going to give us that sweetness that's going to help add to the jerkiness of the sauce. Because we got some sweet and some spicy that's going to jerk your taste buds to and from with the best of them. We're going to combine all of our ingredients in this saucepan and turn up the heat, and we are going to cook the living hell out of all of this to make sure that we achieve a very heavy boil. Using the same spoon because there's nothing wrong with the little sauce added to our pigtails prematurely. That's okay because it's all coming together anyhow. And we're just giving this one final swirl to check, and we are good. It's perfectly singed and got that perfect singe to it, the perfect color to it. It's all coated with seasoning and oil equally. They're looking beautiful. Now, when your pigtails look like this, they are ready. They are more than ready. So now we're going to turn the heat off of our pigtails and wait for the sauce to achieve that boilingness that we need. Boilingness. Is that a word, boilingness? I think I coined a phrase there. Boilingness. And we're going to check on that sauce right now. So we're going to give it a good stir. So you want to keep a good watch on your sauce. Don't walk away from it because we do need to achieve a very heavy boil, which can take a while. But we don't want to walk away from the sauce because the last thing in the world we want to do is allow it an opportunity to burn on the bottom of your pan. Okay, so now we're adding just a half a cup of water to this. So we're going to thin this out just a little bit to make sure it doesn't get too thick. We are needing to add a little water to this. This also makes it less strong because think of this as a concentrate. What we've made is a jerk sauce concentrate. The water is going to help kind of fizzle out the overabundance of spice and the overabundance of sweet. And it's just going to make that tone down just nicely. And then to thicken back up, we are going to use a little dusting, and I do mean a little dusting of cornstarch, just a little bit. Now, I always use the cap to try to measure. I don't just toss it straight into the saucepan because I want to know how much I'm working with, and that powder stuff will go everywhere if you let it. So I use the lid of the jar in order to help me measure how much of the cornstarch I'm going to need to add to my sauce. Now, since I'm not using a whisk, you're going to find that the cornstarch will lump up a little bit when you mix it into the sauce. That's perfectly fine. It's supposed to do that. So what we're going to do to get rid of those lumps is just use the back of the spoon and the side of your saucepan, and we're going to crush all the lumps that form from stirring in our cornstarch. And we're going to turn that back into a powder again, mix that in until all your lumps are mixed into your sauce. As you can see, this is the way you break down cornstarch without a whisk. I could have used a whisk, but I really didn't want to dig through my drawers to find a whisk. So I'm using the spoon and showing you this method because what if you don't have a whisk and you want to know how to get rid of those lumps too? This is the way you do it. So we're going to stir that into the sauce, and as you can see, all the lumps have now been broken down and stirred into our sauce just nicely. And there it is, folks. The heavy boil we're looking for. And now to test the consistency of the sauce, we don't want it to be too thick. We don't want it to be too thin. It will caramelize in the oven because we also have added all the sweet stuff like the pineapple, and the natural sugar from the pineapple will be in there. And now the cornstarch will help thicken it. Now, one final ingredient before I'm ready to take the sauce and combine it with that of the pigtails, and that's C&H brown sugar. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of brown sugar. The problem with C&H pure cane brown sugar is that it does harden very easily, so I really had to scrape like crazy to get a 1/4 teaspoon out of this. But I did manage to succeed in getting as much as I needed. Maybe a little less than planned, or less than I planned on. But otherwise, I'm pleased. Pleased enough. So now we're going to stir the brown sugar in. And as you can see, brown sugar does combine with the boiling sauce very easily. It does not lump up. And so we're just going to make sure that all those granules have melted down into our sauce and combined very well. We're going to allow this to boil for just a little bit longer, but we are going to keep our eye on it because we are almost ready to add those pigtails. Once that brown sugar is fully dissolved in our Jamaican jerk sauce, we are about ready for those pigtails. So let's get those pigtails on in there. Okay, so now we're adding our pigtails into their saucepan. And we are giving them a proper coatability. And we're just going to let them boil in, let them coat before we take them over to our 9x13 baking dish. We're going to bake this now for 375 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 to 40 minutes. In the meantime, we want to make sure that we got enough tidbits for our pineapple. And after about 40 minutes or so has gone by, and we're going to cook that covered in tin foil. So definitely cover that up in tin foil for that first 40. And now we're going to uncover. After it's been cooking for about 40 minutes, we're going to uncover that. Well, it's kind of hard to do with the oven mitts on, but there we go. Beautifully coated. It looks beautiful so far. And now for the finishing touch. We're going to add our pineapple tidbits to these pigtails. Now, what the pineapple is going to do, and this is where the jerk is really going to start happening with your taste buds, folks. When we add that pineapple tidbit to this mix and mix it in and stir it into our Jamaican jerk sauce, the pineapple is really going to, it's not only going to give us a nice taste of the Caribbean and give us more of that staple of Jamaica, but the pineapple is actually going to absorb a lot of the heat, the spice from that sauce. And what it's going to do is when you bite into this pineapple, you're going to feel a kick. Now we're going to put it back in the oven and cook uncovered for 15 minutes. In the meantime, let's drain our sweet potato mash. And we're just going to mash all of that down. That sweet potato mash is not as sweet as traditional sweet potatoes, which are darker in orange. This is going to be about that level, but not as sweet. Not as sweet. It's going to be sweeter than regular russet potatoes, but it's not going to be as sweet. Because remember, we want that perfect blend of sweet versus spice. And with this mixture, we have the perfect blend right here. The same should go for your side meal. So if you're a sweet kind of person, I suggest these white sweet potato mash. If you're a spicy kind of person, may I recommend a nice Jamaican jerk rice, which is rice that has been steamed and then Jamaican jerk seasoning mixed in. So that either way makes a perfect side meal for such a recipe as Jamaican pigtail. Now I'm going to add the butter, and I don't have much imperial butter left over, but that's okay. We're just going to use what we got left of the imperial, but that's all right, because I also have some country crock in the refrigerator. So we're going to go for our churn style country crock, which you can use any kind of butter or margarine that you want. Whatever you have on hand is fine. Alright, so we're looking at about probably a 1/4 tablespoon of the butter. Maybe a 1/2 tablespoon. Really depends on how much of that sweetness you want to counter with that butter, because that butter is going to help smooth out our sweetness. It's going to mellow out some of that sweetness. So we're just adding maybe about a 1/2 tablespoon, or maybe even a full tablespoon, or 2 tablespoons. I don't know. 8 tablespoons. That's more like 2 tablespoons full of butter there that I saw going in. Might have been 3 for good measure, but anyhow, it is what it is. If you like a lot of butter, use about 3 tablespoons. If you like it just right, then 2 tablespoons to the amount of sweet potato we made. Should be just nice. You can test the consistency and lumpiness of your sweet potato by giving a stir with your potato masher and making sure that you don't feel any lumps coming back in to hit you. And now I'm going to add probably a good couple of spoonfuls of sour cream, and we're going to make this nice and creamy. So we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4 spoonfuls, which is the equivalent of probably about half of a tablespoon of sour cream. 1/2 tablespoon of sour cream to make it nice and creamy, stirring all of that in. And then it's a little bit on the liquidy side, as I realize that some of that butter and some of that sour cream is really, when added to this type of mix, just kind of turns it into a little bit of a liquid there. So what we're going to do is we are going to put this back onto the stovetop, and we're going to let it cook for a little bit more, probably about 10 more minutes. And so once I get all the ingredients put away, we're going to put this back on the stove, cook it for about 10 minutes, and then by that time, the sweet potato mash will be done, our pigtails will be done, everything will be done all at the same time. So 10 minutes later, and our pigtails are coming out of that oven, and let's have a look at this. Look at this, folks. That is our finished product right there. That is our Jamaican pigtail with pineapple. A beautiful array of sweet and spice at the same time. Your taste buds are going to feel the effect of the jerk sauce that we made. And look how sticky and smooth and thick that sauce turned out, just baking in the oven uncovered. And those pineapples are beautifully covered in that Jamaican jerk sauce. And now what we've done is, with the pineapple, we have absorbed and given off a huge impact of that sauce is going to come together in that pineapple, which is why I included it into this recipe. If you've never had pigtail before, try it like this. It is a beautiful, definitive way to enjoy this Jamaican cuisine, which we call Jamaican pigtails, and we made our own homemade Jamaican jerk sauce, and that pineapple is really going to accentuate that sauce beautifully. Then we're going to add some of that sweet potato mash on the side of the plate with our meal complete. We are talking Jamaican perfection, and Jamaican me hungry here. I want to try some of this. So with a generous portion of the sweet potato mash, along with a generous portion of our Jamaican-style pigtails, there it is on the plate, ready to be enjoyed. And I'm just going to top that sweet potato mash with a little extra butter, because you can never have too much butter. According to some recipes, you can never have too much butter. I can never have too much butter. So I'm just going to add a little bit more to the top of that, just for the sake of just having a little extra of that butter on top. There we go. And then, folks, I am going to... Because remember when we made that corned beef brisket? That all the ingredients resembled the Irish flag? Orange for the carrot, white for the onion, you had green for the cabbage. Well, let us top our sweet potato mash with the colors of the Jamaican flag. We're going to first add some chives to resemble the green, and just a sprinkling of black pepper for the black, which resemble the green and black flag of Jamaica. I know there's yellow on there too, but let that be the color of the sweet potato mash. So with the color of the sweet potato mash combined with the green from the chives and the black from the black pepper, resembling the Jamaican flag beautifully with our sweet potato mash. And then we have that lovely pigtail in our Jamaican jerk sauce, and we made it all homemade. So now let's take a taste test of it all. Smells divinely, let me tell you. So first we're going to take a taste of the sweet potato mash. It's really hot, but super, super good. You got that level of sweetness that's not too strong. It's got that, sweet kind of undertaste to it that really, really goes good with that white sweet potato mash. Really delicious. And now, try a piece of the pineapple here. And you get the heat blast and then the sweetness from the pineapple. We're going to try a piece of that. Oh, well, looks like my footage was cut off there, folks, after not being able to show my reaction on trying a piece of the pigtail, because that part of the footage was corrupted. So, but let me tell you something, folks. Nothing resembles Jamaican cuisine better than the way that we made this recipe tonight for Jamaican pigtails. I urge everybody, if you've never had Jamaican cuisine before, start with this. Get your feet wet. Then see what other tantalizing dishes that you can make in your favorite parts of the world. Tonight we're in Jamaica, enjoying Jamaican pigtail. So until next time, this is SonicBlu coming at you, saying enjoy what it is you put together and never be afraid to try anything new. The most that you can do is fail, but you learn through failure. You learn through your mistakes. That being said, never be afraid to try something new. Never be afraid to embrace culture. You might find a new favorite out there somewhere. And remember what I always say, folks, if you're not cooking good, you're not eating good. And you're definitely not eating what I'm eating tonight, which is Jamaican food, man. So enjoy it, cook it for yourself, find out for yourself just how delicious it can be. A beautiful blend of sweet and spicy at the same time. Your taste buds will think that you went partying. Oh, see you next time, folks.
I'm too old for this stuff.